I'm not sure if you heard it, but Jay said it's Christmas time. You might have missed it in the announcements. But look, I know what you're probably thinking. It's like, it's November, whose Christmas tree is up right now? Good. I grew up in a December 1 household. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if it's before December, you're going to ruin Christmas. And so now, like, as soon as I started paying my own phone bills, it's like, whatever, Mom. Christmas tree up when I want. In our house, like, I love this season. It's, one of the best parts of every year. It really is the most wonderful time of the year. I know that because on September 25, which is 2 days after Brioni's birthday, September 23, if you're taking notes, after Bree's birthday is pretty well the last of kind of the big family things that goes on. And so 2 days after that is September 25, which is, of course, we all know, the start of Christmas quarter. And so September 25, we load up, we figure it out, all right, cool, we wake up, and the first thing that we do is we load up a song to just blast through the house to announce the beginning of Christmas quarter. This year, of course, it was Andy Williams' most wonderful time of the year because it truly is, because Christmas is amazing, whatever it is for you, for me, it means our kids are home from school, which is amazing because they get to be home and I get to go to work and Bree gets to have some good time with the kids. But like, it's time that we gather around. It's hot. We get to swim in the pool. It's time to just kind of relax and eat and enjoy the good parts of this season. And today, kind of as we begin to kick it off, we thought that Christmas is too good to wait until December. But also, we want to have a look at, as we kind of begin this journey towards Christmas Day, we as a church, we kind of gather around and look really at what this is all about. A few years ago, because we get really worked up and I love all of the bits and pieces of the Christmas season, the whole, getting angry in car parks, that's like a real joy of mine. And, the Christmas treats, like Pavlova comes out, as my son calls it, Pavlov's, which is true because every time I see it, I begin to salivate. But one thing that we love is Christmas light hunting, which is weird because the lights never move, so they're very easy to hunt. And so we jumped in our car a few years ago. We jumped in our car, we loaded it up. We had all of the music playing. We loaded it up with dinosaur LEDs, which I'm sure was a traffic hazard, but whatever, it's Christmas. And we took off to a church up the road, which has one of the most spectacular light displays outside of the city, and we rolled in and had everything. If there's a parking team for your light display, you're doing something right. And so we got ushered in, we went in, they had everything, Outback Santa with his kangaroos carrying the sleigh. We had, the 3-story high Christmas tree, all of the bells and whistles. But one of the parts of this Christmas light display is inside the shop, after you go through kind of like the store thrifted together by the ladies in the church, is a walk through a nativity scene, which is amazing because it's like, yes, good, guys, keeping it real. It's the reason. But I was like, this is perfect. I'm a pastor. These are my kids. This is my moment. I'm going to tell them the Christmas story in such a profound, memorable way that this is going to carry them through life for the rest of their lives. And so we kind of went in, and it's like the wise men are there. Thankfully, they didn't turn up late like they do in the real story. And so, there's all of these things, and we walk it through, and I'm like, son, look at that. There's the star guiding us. All of the things, the angels, the shepherds. Look, no one's too far. I'm like, I'm preaching up a storm. Then we get to the stable, because it's like, the crescendo, yes. My kids are at this stage like 5, 3, and 1 and don't care at all. They're just loaded up on sugar. But I'm like, this is for me. As parents, isn't that true? We do so many things for us that we're like, this is so good for the kids. I put my arm around, I'm like, this is it, the stable. And there he is, Joseph, the most placid-looking new father you've ever seen, etched into porcelain. Like, look at him. Mary, who after, I don't know how long her labor went for, but she's like looking lovingly down as though like nothing happened and staring in at the manger. And I'm like, boys, this is it. Lean forward, look in. This is what it's all about. There in the manger was a can of Red Bull. And somebody had stolen porcelain baby Jesus. He was nowhere to be seen. And I'm left trying to explain to 3 very confused kids that Christmas isn't about Red Bull. somebody's lost porcelain baby Jesus. I mean, Joseph and Mary did it, so maybe they were just kind of keeping true to the story. And so, but isn't that true? That Christmas time, with all of the tinsel and all of the tidings and all of the whistle notes at 2 minutes into Mariah Carey, everything that is part and parcel of the Christmas experience, all of the lights, all of the show, all of the wonder, all of the joy, all of the sugar, all of the Pavlovs. It's so easy in the midst of everything to lose sight, to lose really what it's all about. And so this Christmas, over the next 4 or 5 weeks, we are having a look together as a church, making sure that we don't lose sight of what this is all about. Not porcelain baby Jesus, but the real incarnate Word of God, Emmanuel, God with us, the incarnate one, the one who God enfleshed himself and sent to earth so that we might know life, Jesus, that we would stare fully at what this season is all about. And one of the things that I do love about this season is that it brings with it a number of questions. Really, whether today is your first time in church, maybe you've joined us for the first time, work's beginning to kind of slow down, uni exams are finished, and maybe you're beginning to ask those questions. But Christmas is amazing because it's like the whole world sets itself like a stage in a play to tell the greatest story of all time, the coming of God into our world. And Christmas brings with it all kinds of questions like, who is this? What is this all about? What is this whole Christmas thing for? Perhaps said another way is, who is this? Jesus said to song, what child is this? And what I love about Christmas is as people begin to ask these questions, wrestle with these questions, maybe you're here today because you've started to ask these questions because Father's Day's over, so of course shops are filled with Christmas decorations, and maybe it's begun to just eat at the corners of your mind, what is this season all about? And I love that because when you discover the answers that I have discovered to those questions, you will discover a peace and a joy and a hope and a wonder that outlasts everything. All of the things of earth grow strangely dim in the light of his wondrous love displayed in Christmas. And when we ask these questions and discover these answers, everything changes. Christmas really is a season that we get to have a look at that question of what child is this? And if you've been a believer, you've been following Jesus for any length of time, you've obviously answered this question before, but just like that church, sometimes it's important that we check that in the manger there's not a can of Red Bull, but that Jesus remains in the heart, in our heart. And so today, as we begin to have a look at it, we do, as Tim Keller says, this way, that to say that Christians celebrate Christmas falls far short. We, in fact, stare dumbstruck, lost in wonder and love and praise as we look at this Christmas story. And today, I want to begin by having a look at one of 4 names that Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, 700 years before Jesus came to earth, told us what child this would be. One of the 4 names that he says we would have. And the story of Jesus that we know and love so well, this past week my son had his Christmas kind of, I would say carols, but I didn't recognize any of them. He had a Christmas thing, and it was awesome. It went 55 minutes too long, but whatever. The story that we know so well has this part of the story that we kind of can overlook, and it's bizarre that the God of the universe comes to earth, and there is no room, not even in an inn, not in a palace, let alone a temple. God comes to earth, and there's no room. Why is that? It's because he came in a most unexpected way. And while he came in an unexpected way, it doesn't mean that he came in an unannounced way. Just like a relative calling up saying, I'm in town, and then a surprise pop over. It's unexpected, but it's not unannounced, because the entire Old Testament is full of prophets with a litany of prophecies telling us that there would be one day a future coming king that would do away with all of the hurt, sorrow, and loss that God's people are experiencing. God says to his prophets time and time again, gives snapshots, pictures of what this king would do and who he would be and what he would be to us. Sometimes they were very specific things, like Micah saying that this king would be born in Bethlehem in Genesis, that he would be called up out of Egypt. Isaiah says, as implausible as it would be, that he would be born of a virgin. And Jeremiah says that this king, this Messiah, would be born in the middle of human suffering. In the life of Jesus, get this, in the life of Jesus, he fulfills over, conservatively talking, 300 Old Testament prophecies. And sometimes we kind of like, prophecies, stand back because it's like Lord of the Ringsy and we don't really know what to do with prophecies because it's like, cool, it's weird, it's good, but it's weird. And so I don't really know what to do with prophecies. But one thing that Jesus fulfilling all of these prophecies means is it's not just like, Blue's Clues and God's kind of saying, look, there's this guy, he's going to be coming and he's going to look a little bit like this. That's one way of looking at the prophetic in the Old Testament. But what it means to me and what it means to you is that if God can so specifically work all of human history into and execute his plan so precisely to bring about salvation for the world, there is no one on earth that is outside of his ability to find, to reach, and release and redeem in all of humanity. It means that if God can orchestrate everything to bring his plan to fruition, if you're here today and you feel like you are too far gone, you're too tricky to save, that is a lie, because God is able to do what he says he will do. And he shows it over 300 times just in the life of Jesus. In 33 years, he fulfills 300 snapshots of what God said he would do. And that means that God, the one who called you, is able and faithful to do what he promises. It means that he's not a man that he should lie. It means that our God can be trusted. And just because it happened in the past, it gives us a hope for our future, that God can bring salvation to us. And one of these pictures that God gives is to the prophet Isaiah, like I said, about 700 years before the birth of Jesus. And he gives Isaiah this picture, and he says this in Isaiah chapter 9, if you want to open it. It says this, that the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. Those living in deep darkness, a light has dawned. A few years ago, Brioni and I went camping on New Year's Eve up in Springbrook, which if you know Springbrook, New Zealand's the land of the long white cloud. Springbrook is just the land in the cloud. And it's wet 100% of the time. And we went camping on one of those weekends. I mean, it's summer in Queensland, so you never know what's going to happen. At 3 o'clock, it's sunny. At 3:15, your car is just absolutely cooked from hail. It's whatever. But we went camping on one of those weekends that you really wished you'd booked a hotel. And we're down there on the beach, and it's awesome. And then this storm rolls in that just absolutely takes out all of our camping gear. It floods our tents collapse, our torches get wet, so we're all working on one torch that's just about to die. And just as we're about to go to sleep in our soaking wet, dropped tents filled with water, we discover that everyone is covered in leeches. And so then we're all doing the buddy system, trying to find all of these things. And then eventually that one person with the working torch just trottles off. They were so chuffed. But they go to their tent with the one working torch, happy as. And then we're just left in this pitch black, soaking wet, freezing tent, knowing that just outside our tent is like a Jumanji-infested, leech-filled cesspit called Springbrook. And I don't know if you've ever been camping in an experience like this, or maybe you've had nights like this, that it is deep darkness. There's darkness, and then there is pitch black, can't find your way, corners of furniture just waiting in the dark, ready to jump on your little toe, that kind of deep darkness. And when you're in those times, there is something in you that is just yearning for the dawn to arrive. You know what I mean? That it's in those times when we're just shivering in our tents, Just waiting, knowing that there is nothing outside around us to give us bearing that is going to get us into a better position than we're in right now. We are looking to the sky, hoping that something is going to come bursting through that's going to illuminate everything and give us hope. And the prophet Isaiah, he writes to this group of people who find themselves in their souls in a very similar situation. He says that they are living in a land of deep darkness. That around them, oppressive forces are pressing in from every side. They were beaten, they were shattered, they were demoralized, and everywhere they looked, they couldn't find anything that looked anything like hope. They were in deep darkness. It's the state of humanity today that people hurting, angry, a malleable morality that sets unattainable heights, a cancel culture that seeks to just bring you down if you step outside of the lines they've just freshly painted that morning. All of these things that are just grasping in the dark, trying to make sense of where you are. And this is the place, this is the setting in which Isaiah says this coming king would dawn. Just like all of us at some time are waiting for this light to arrive. Maybe you've had bad days and you're just like, I just can't wait to get home, that yearning for the dawn. And Isaiah says that in that place, in that time, there would come a light. There would be a dawn. Literally, it means that the light would flash upon the earth. And he says that this is what will come. He says, this is what's going to happen when this light arrives. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. Everything that we would use to grab a hold of anything, our need to fight to survive, our need to grab a hold of everything, our push forward at the expense of everybody around, all of the violent need to protect ourselves would be done away with. The only thing that it will be useful for in the reign of this king will be for fuel for the fire. Not even just you can put it down for a moment, but keep it at the back of the cupboard because you might need it. No. The only place for this kind of violent need to protect ourselves will be for the fuel for fire. Such will be the reign of this coming Messiah. Such would be the joy and the fulfillment and the hope of this coming dawn. And he says that this coming king would usher in such a time of peace. Darkness in Scripture is a picture of ignorance and of evil. When we see something happen that's just absolutely horrible, we can sometimes say, well, that was really dark. Maybe you watch a bad movie, there was no redeeming qualities. You're like, it was a dark movie because we know that evil and darkness are aligned. Or maybe you just don't know what's going on. You have no idea. Somebody asked you to do something. Maybe you've been given a task. You don't know what to do or where to go. And they say, what should we do? And you say, I'm in the dark. Darkness is ignorance and evil combined. And into this darkness, a light would come. And this is how Isaiah says that this child would come. He says, for to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. Isaiah says that if you are looking for and who this child will be Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. This is who he will be. This is a story of Christmas, that into deep darkness there will come flashing a light. That in the middle of our hurt and our need and our reaching in the dark to make sense of anything, God would send a king, a light whose reign would bring about a peace. And this king will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. The question for us today, what I want to have a look at is, how is this Jesus our wonderful counselor? How is this king, this promised thing, the thing that we've been looking for and hoping for our whole life. How is he to be our wonderful counselor? And what makes him so wonderful? Brioni and I this past week celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary. So that was cool. And you know how you never know if to clap because it really just means like, great job, Brie, you survived. But it made me think of our first wedding anniversary when we went to New York, and one of our favorite memories of New York was being completely, totally, and utterly lost in New York and spending half a day not enjoying New York because, again, we were lost. And what happened was we were kind of trying to find our way around, and we were trying to look for, a certain landmark, and all we were looking at were warehouses and people that were just not comfortable with the fact that we were there. And we had our phones out, and we were looking at kind of the landmarks around us, trying to make sense of it, but we knew deep down we weren't where we were supposed to be. Because we'd kind of spent, all of our money getting to New York, we were too poor to actually pay for data while we were in New York. And so we did that thing where you kind of load up the maps before you lead. And it made us think just these incredible explorers of like 2008 that managed to navigate countries and places before they had data. And we're like, these people were amazing. But we're looking at the map, and we're looking at what we're not meant to be looking at, and we know that we're not where we're supposed to be, and we're not enjoying ourselves because we're not where we hoped we would be. And we did, at that moment, what every good Australian pastor does when they don't know what to do. We went and got coffee. And so we went in, we got free Wi-Fi, we realized that we were absolutely so far from where we were meant to be, all because we just didn't have our location services on. The thing about sin, the thing about this deep darkness that humanity finds itself in, devoid of this coming Messiah, is one of the results of sin is this deep sense of lostness that hits the human heart. The sense that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I know that deep down somewhere there is a place that I was designed to inhabit. Creation story tells us that is walking with God, enjoying his presence and worshiping him in absolute perfect relationship with God and those around us. But something deep down inside us tells us that we're not there. And so we try and do a whole lot of things to try and make sense of what's going on. We try and figure out what we're supposed to do. But when we are honest with ourselves, when kind of maybe uni exams finish, maybe when work begins to wind down and we start to actually ask ourselves those questions, we begin to wonder, is this all there is? Is this what I was made to do? Is this what life really is all about? Because somewhere deep inside there is this feeling of, I'm just not where I'm meant to be. Is this what it's all about? And maybe you came in here today because you know that this is the season that churches begin to talk about that thing, but maybe you're here because you're like, what really is the purpose of all of this? Is this all there is? Is it just a matter of wake up, rise and grind? Wake and create. Is it just a matter of getting the to-do list done, getting to the top, getting ahead, getting yours? Is it just what Vin Diesel says? Is life just all about family? Is it all about friends? Is it all about this? Is this really all there is in life? And if we're honest, everywhere that we end up, there is something inside all of us that knows that we're lost, that knows that we're not where we're meant to be. We're searching for the life, we're searching for that feeling that we've arrived, but try as we might, as we reach in the dark, looking for that thing that will make sense of it all, we feel like we're coming up empty. Is this really all there is? One of the results of sin is this feeling of lostness, but one of the effects of sin is it not only makes us lost, but it also ruins all of our sense of direction. So not only are we now lost, but we lose all bearing in our ability to get to where we are supposed to be. In our souls, now that we are out of relationship with God, we lose that true north, that real reality, that true life that we were made to enjoy, but we're now lost with the facilities to find our way back. It's like our souls have lost our location services. All we know is that we're not where we're supposed to be, but try as we might, we can't find our way back. We begin to follow our noses really wherever they point. It means liars have rules over us, our feelings control us, culture directs us, and we're left with nowhere to turn, lost in the world, knowing that we're not where we're supposed to be, but with no way of getting out. Have you ever felt like that before? The deep and those honest questions that you ask yourself. Those questions that you talk through with those closest to you, those questions you ask when you're going to bed at night. I know I'm not where I'm supposed to be, but how do I get back? And into that scene, into our lostness, into our lack of sense of direction, comes a man, comes a child who would grow up and declare that I am the way, the truth, and the life. In the midst of our lostness, in the midst of our brokenness, in the midst of us feeling adrift in the world, Jesus enters the scene like a flash of light in our darkest nights. He comes and he announces to the whole world that I am the way back to the thing that you were hoping to have, relationship with the Father and peace with those around you. I am that way. I am the truth. In the midst of the lies, in the midst of the hustle, in the midst of trying to get back yourself, I am the true reality of the world, and I am that life that you have been looking for forever. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus comes in as a child, as a son, as we're all searching, grasping in the dark, trying to somehow get bearing on how to navigate this life. Comes a child, a son. He is our wonderful counselor. A counselor not in the way of just kind of, you sit down, lie down, and talk about, problems that you had growing up with a counselor. And I'm not trying to diminish the role of counselors. I love counselors. We have counselors on team. Being able to sit and work through things that are going on inside you with good and wise people is amazing. But a counselor in biblical times had a much larger role. A counselor would be somebody that either sits beside or speaks through the king, that gives direction, that gives ways forward, that gives a picture of how this life in the kingdom is going to move from just getting by to fully flourishing. That's the role of a counselor. And so Jesus comes in the midst of our lostness. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. I was once lost, but now I am found. Found why? Because the way, the truth, and the life comes in the midst of our lostness, and he meets us where we're at with counsel to direct and guide and lift and journey the way back. This wonderful counselor comes to show us the way. But what makes him wonderful? Not just a counselor, not just a good life coach, but what makes him our wonderful counselor, what makes him wonderful and beautiful and awe-inspiring is where he does his counseling from. See, Jesus doesn't stand at a distance and send us on a quest. Sometimes we view religion as just a matter of walking into the building, getting some advice on how to navigate our lostness. And Jesus standing at the edge of our souls, just clicking a ticket and saying, I hope to see you by the pearly gates. I'll be just to the right once you enter. If you make it, best of luck. See, this is a picture of Jesus as our travel agent. That just, we walk in, he gives us a ticket, we try and navigate life, we go through the hurt, we go through the pain, still basically lost, but really with a ticket, knowing that where we'll end up is somehow better than we are right now. Jesus is not our travel agent. Jesus comes to earth and he says, follow me. See, Jesus is not our travel agent. Jesus is more like a tour guide who grabs us when we come in the midst of our lostness. And he says, would you just follow me because I am the way, the truth, and the life. And if you walk with me every step of the way, you don't have to guess left and right. You just have to follow my footsteps. And if you follow me, I will encourage you. I will equip you. I will lift your burdens. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Would you just walk with me? Jesus is not our travel agent. Jesus is our wonderful counselor. And the only reason that we can follow him is because why? He came here. We couldn't follow him if he was just a deity floating somewhere up there in the stars. He is our wonderful counselor because he came here. We couldn't do it if he hadn't been here. But because he's been here, it means something so incredible, so wonderful. Because he's been here, he gets us. He understands you. That in the midst of your pain, in the midst of your lostness, because he's been here, he can meet you there. Because our Jesus came to earth, we have what no other religion even claims to have, a God that understands you from the inside of experience. No other deity claims to know what it is to have to be courageous. No other God would claim that they know what it's like to suffer and be tortured and be betrayed. Because Jesus has been here, he understands what it's like to have family drama. He understands what it's like to be with people that can't handle money well. He understands what it's like when friends leave you. He understands what it's like when people throw rocks at you, not just with their words, but literally rocks. Jesus has been here, and that is amazing. Why? Because it means that he gets you. And wherever you are in life, our Jesus comes in the midst of our darkest nights and he says, would you just follow me and you can trust me because I've been here. You don't have to wonder whether I know the advice for you because I have lived. I have died in your place. I understand the whole of the human experience. The writer of Hebrews says it this way: we don't have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses. But we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. If you're going through hard times, you often try and find somebody that's been there before and done it well. Maybe you're journeying through sickness and you find somebody who's battled a similar condition and they can give you advice. Maybe you're in the middle of relational tension and breakdown and you find people that have gone that journey and been restored. And that's one of the joys of being in a Christian community like this. We've got people that have walked this journey that can give us advice. But this is the wonder of Christmas. That Jesus has been here. That he understands you. That whatever it is that you're walking through, he's been through it all and yet he did not sin. And so because of that, this is what the writer of Hebrews said: let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we might receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. That because Jesus understands you, you don't have to pretend like you're not lost. You can come to him. Because Jesus has been here, he can empathize with the pain that you're going through. You don't have to pretend that things aren't hard. You can come to him. And he will give you grace and mercy. He will find you. And he will lead you out. He is wonderful. He's beautiful. And if you're asking the question, if this all there is to life, Jesus is the answer. If you're lost and you feel like you're just adrift at sea, wondering what's the purpose of all of this, Jesus is the answer. And at Christmas, we celebrate that God does what he says, and that into our darkest night comes the brightest of lights that comes and declares that I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life that you have been looking for. Jesus, talking of his own ministry, he says this: after he's just been talking to a man named Zacchaeus, a man lost, trying to figure his own way out, doing everything he can, but deep inside knowing that something just isn't right. Jesus says that I came to seek and to save. Not the people that might be able to figure it out. Not the people that are they're not the people that can get it all right together, but I came to seek and to save the lost. If today you're here and you feel lost, Jesus came for you. God orchestrated all of human history. He moved heaven and earth to come so that you could know a wonderful counselor that can find you, that can save you. The awkward thing about Christmas, if every head wants to bow and every eye wants to close, one of the awkward things about Christmas is those gifts that come with hints. You know the ones I'm talking about. You know when you get given a bar of soap, book on budgeting, deodorant, 50 things to say to not be awkward. When we get given those kind of gifts, we're faced with a choice. And that's to choose or not, to accept that there is something amiss that this gift can help you in. The story of Christmas is a gift that was given to you. That He came in our dark to be the light that we long for. That He came to be our wonderful counselor, our mighty God, our everlasting Father, and our Prince of Peace. The gift that we've been given gives us a choice. Are we willing to admit that we need the gift of heaven? And if today you're honest with yourself and you've been asking this question, what really is the purpose of my life? Is this really all there is? I feel lost and I don't know what to do. Jesus is the gift that was given for you. And I want to give you an opportunity right now to receive that gift. To say, Ryan, today is my day to admit that I'm lost. I've done everything I can to find my way. I need a Savior. If that's you today, and you say, Ryan, that's me. I'm lost. I'm adrift. I don't understand why. I don't understand purpose. I have this sense that I'm not where I'm supposed to be. You were designed and created and lovingly formed to know and enjoy God forever, to be in relationship with the Heavenly Father. And only through the life and death and resurrection of Jesus can we know that kind of life. Today, if you're here and you say, Ryan, you know what? If I'm honest, I'm lost, but today is my day. Just like that song says, I once was lost. Today is my day to stop being lost and to be once was lost. Today is my day to be found, and only in Jesus can I know that I am found. And Jesus is calling your name in this moment. If that's you, on the count of 3, I want you to just say, Ryan, today that's me. I'm lost and I need saving. I want you to know that when you do that and you say, Jesus, you and you alone can save. You and you alone can find me in my lostness and restore me to where I was made. Our Bible says that anyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. If that's you, on the count of 3, I want you to just raise your hand and say, Ryan, today, that's me. 1, 2, 3. Across this room today, you're saying, Ryan, that's me. I need to know what it is to be found. I need saving. If you're online today and you're making that decision, I want you to know that we can still interact in a moment. There's going to be a number coming up on the screen, but if that's you, don't let this moment pass just because you're not in the room. Today, Jesus is calling your name. Today, you're making that decision. would you just place your hand on your heart? We're going to pray a prayer that goes just like this. Jesus, today, I admit that I'm lost and I need saving. God, it feels like I am in the darkest moments of my life. But Father, I thank you that you come and you find me. Forgive me from doing things my own way. And Father, help me to follow you all the days of my life, my wonderful counselor. In Jesus' name.